veil, wipe away tears, remove all sorrow and all fears, for beyond the veil all is right, all is whole.
And we love you, a gift of love in our world, and we love you.
Good, amen. Amen, we do love you. We do everything we can to support you through this.
Do we have tissues?
And Mel, I need one, my nose is running all over the
Here
room.
you go. Just give her a couple.
Oh, gee. I'm gonna carry it just in case I'm telling the truth. Okay. All right, well, you know, I had something planned for tonight because we've been talking about the priesthood. And then when John called this morning, everything changed. So, I'm just gonna talk to you about something that has been on my mind a lot this week and periodically eking in anyway. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Let me back up a little bit, so you guys who have been coming, please be patient for these folks, okay? Let me just back up a little bit, and for you too, also. And for you too, also. We've got several new people here. Oh no, she got me. Okay. Everything in the visible world all comes from the same source, amen? Amen. And that source we call God. Okay, different people have different names, but we call this God. And it comes from the Saxon word that means good. Now, unfortunately, poor God has gotten a pretty bad rap by people who don't know him, because they've blamed all the misery and sadness and tragedy on the earth on this God, which only has, did somebody say something?
There was a chair.
Which only has caused them to experience the very thing that they believe is true, just like Job in the Bible. You know, he believed with his whole heart that, and so did everybody around him, that God was the progenitor of his suffering. And actually, that's what I'm up against all the time. What I'm up against all the time with people is, you didn't do anything to cause this. You're not being punished. There is no punishing God. And I know that everybody wants to, that wants a punishing God thinks I'm a heretic, but I don't care. There is a God of mercy, and I will introduce that God to you, but I will never, never, never acquiesce to a punishing God. We get punished when we don't turn to that God of mercy and receive that mercy, because we feel unworthy, because we think that God is holding out, because we are unworthy. Do you understand that? And if we think God is holding out, then it's kind of like needing the sun, but not going out of the shade. As long as in our consciousness, in our hearts, we have the remotest idea that maybe this is something, this suffering is something that's good for us, or something that's going to help us, or something that's going to cause us to gain ground, or something that's going to cause us to, I'm going to stand up so you guys can see me. I'm going to stand on a chair. And if I,
Don't fall down.
well, you can't catch me. Who's going to catch me if I fall?
Okay, there.
John.
You want to stand on the heart?
So I can
Stand
sit.
on the heart.
Don't
No.
Don't keep over.
Now don't move it. Oh my God.
It's this thing.
Okay. Is everyone holding their breath? John, seriously, come up here and sit in this chair, will you, just in case I go? So just move your guitar, just in case. Are you gonna, okay. Okay. It's, you know, I have been, that's what I've been up against, you know, forever. And I just had someone else say, you know, my wife is going to pass away today, this is not you. And, but she's scared and she's screaming and she's climbing the walls, and I said, why is she so frightened? And he said, she thinks punishment awaits her. And there's nothing in this world that tears me up more than that. But there is hardly a church that does not teach it. And there's hardly a generation that has not been inundated with that kind of nonsense about God. God who is altogether merciful, who is altogether wonderful, who is altogether blessed, who never withholds, because love can't withhold. Love can't withhold. It can't, no more than the sun can stop shining. Now, you cannot walk out in the sun, and you cannot get the rays from the sun, and you may not get the warmth of the sun, but that's because you didn't believe it was shining. Do you understand? And you can suffer all kinds of untold anguish and horror, and the whole world does, but it's because it's exactly what the Bible says. They don't know me. They don't know me. They do not know my name. Those that know my name, he said, will ride on high, ride on the winds of the earth, and be blessed forever. Those who know who I am and understand my nature, that I am the Lord that executeth loving kindness and righteousness and peace in the earth. That was Elmo's favorite scripture lately.
It was.
Let not the wise man glory in his wisdom, let not the mighty man glory in his might, let not the rich man glory in his riches, but let him that glorieth glory in this, that he understandeth and knoweth me. That I am he that executeth loving kindness and righteousness and peace in the earth. If you have one prayer in your life, one prayer, let it be, God, show me what you're really like. Help me, help to get all this, just like Job, get all this nonsense out. Poor Job. He was just so sure God was a God of anger and wrath and judgment, and God's judgment is a judgment of mercy, always, always. Because by mercy and truth, iniquity is purged. Mercy rejoiceth against judgment. God doesn't judge to punish. He judges to have mercy, because when you feel the mercy of God, and one time when I was in Bible college 100 years ago, I got involved in something that I should have never gotten involved in. Didn't know how to extricate myself. I was like 25 years old, an idiot. Anybody that's 25, I don't mean that you're an idiot, but I was an idiot when I was 25. And I kept praying to get out of it, and I couldn't get out of it, and I had the whole elders down on my throat, ready to throw me out of my ear, and I laid in my bed one night crying because I felt so condemned and so wrong. I had big old tears going into my ears, just laying there. My babies were asleep in their little bunk beds, and I saw this face in front of me of just the most incredible face of mercy and love and gentleness and kindness. Not what I was getting from the elders, not what I was getting from my own heart, but it was the heart of God. It was the face of love and mercy, and it broke that power of that thing instantly, and I could walk away from it. But when judgment was all over me, I couldn't walk away from it. I couldn't get out from under it. Because 2 Corinthians says the strength of sin and the strength of disease and the strength of suffering is condemnation. Because we believe that somewhere along the way, judgment is rough. And we're all gonna have to, dance to the piper. There is no God like that. And if you don't hear anything else tonight, you walk away and it's against anything you've ever heard in your whole life, too bad. Let me be the one voice that challenges that in your heart. And then go to God and say what's true about it. Because when you get it from God, not from me, but when you get it, everything in your life changes. Your expectation is only strength and prosperity and peace and love and goodness. Do you understand?
Yes, it is.
It has to be gotten. But we have to get it from God. I can talk till I'm blue, purple, and green, and it won't change your hearts because somebody got to you before I did. And there was already that awful, awful convoluted belief. And everything you turn on television says the same thing. You know, the wrath of God. You know, the insurances don't pay it because it's an act of God. I don't know what God they're talking about, but it's no God I know. It's no God that I know. But we all come from that. And so there is one life force, one life presence. And I call it the spirit of life. And it flows out from this source, God. And it is the creative intelligence. It creates and forms everything from us to planets, to stars, to insects, to creepy crawlies, even scorpions, if you can believe it. To all the animals, to the birds that fly and the fish that swim. So there is a common life, a common life. Now we talk all the time about learning to look beyond the mask that everybody wears and find that common life. Do you all remember the lady, the young girl that was just killed over in prison with ISIS that was from Arizona?
Yes.
You guys all heard about it. You heard about the letter she wrote to her parents? It was on TV constantly. And what she said in that letter was, and they didn't, I believe they did not kill her. I believe that she was collateral damage from airstrikes, just like they said. And they had been writing to her family, ISIS, and they had a tremendous care and wanting to protect her. I don't know why they were taking everybody else's head off, but there's something about her that they wanted to protect, and they were writing her family all the time. And I don't believe that they would have lied at the end. But anyway, she wrote a letter, and she said, and she'd already been there for over a year in prison. She said, I can't wait to see you. I love you. You know, I'm sorry for the pain that this has caused you all. But then she said, they are treating me with great respect and honor and dignity, and they have not hurt me. And she said, I have learned that I can find goodness in everyone and in every situation. And I have chosen to find the goodness in all of them. No wonder they didn't want to hurt her. They did not feel condemnation from her, and they didn't feel fear from her, because you can't be afraid of what you're choosing to see goodness. Do you understand? But now if she had been afraid of them, her head would have been rolling like the rest of the heads were rolling, because that fear, generates that kind of response. But it's very critical throughout our life that we learn to not react to each other's faults or problems or insanities. And I'm preaching to myself, and everybody that knows me personally knows I am. But we have to. We have to get past the reactions, and we have to learn to have mercy. Because if we need, and we all do, and want mercy from God that will correct us and heal us and strengthen us, then we have to be merciful to others. And the definition of mercy is that I choose not to see you sick. I choose to see the goodness of God and that life that flows through you. I choose not to see you a pain in the rear end. I choose not to see you nasty. I choose not to see you belligerent. I choose not to see you a thief. I choose not to see you a drug addict. I choose not to see anything except the pure and the holy, because behind that mask, there is one only begotten Son. There's one pure expression of the fullness of God, and we call that Jesus. So when you condemn another, you're shutting off that life of the Spirit from that person to you. And you're shutting off your own life flow. Because you can't keep that river of life flowing when you're busy condemning and looking down at somebody and talking about somebody and holding grudges, and it won't work. It just does not work. And you become Everything you don't want to be. Everything that you look out and say, I hate, you become. And that's the truth. You know, I mean, I had this chip on my shoulder about my father, who was a big general in the Air Force, and he was a bully, and belligerent, and hostile, and horrible. And we never went to a restaurant that he didn't end up with that waitress crying. He just rode her until she cried. It was just the way he was. God, when I got older, I'd get up and walk out, just leave it. I'd take a cab home. I say, if you do it, embarrass me this time and hurt somebody, I'm gonna be out the door. He didn't think I'd do it, and I did it. Got up and got my 2 babies, and we left. Met him back at his house. I said, I told you I was gonna do it. I said, there's no call for that. But I hated it so much that I became a bully. And I thought, gee, that's the way to get people to respond, you know, be tough, be rough, stand strong. I remember I went to speak out in Washington State one time, and the guy didn't know me, but he had read all the books, and he'd heard me on the radio, and I don't know what, but anyway, I guess my reputation preceded me, like what you said back there. But anyway, when he came into the room, he's the pastor there, and I stood up, and he said, I can't believe that, are you finished standing up? I mean, I think he thought I was gonna be 6 feet tall or something, you know, because I was such a bull in a china shop, and I realized that in forgiving and in learning to see past that, and just knowing in my heart, I tried to remember when I was little, things about him. You know, I remember that he'd watch a TV show and it would make him cry. And I'd think, well, there's something in there. There's a marshmallow under all that. Mm-hmm. And I'd go sit in his lap. I was the only one not afraid of him. I'd go sit in his lap and I'd take him Kleenex and dry his eyes, and it'd make him laugh. And, you know, consequently, I was his favorite, even though I was no doubt the hardest one to raise. And I thought about that, and I thought if I could just find one good thing in somebody, if all I can see is bad. I remember a lady that went in to pray for a woman at her house, and her husband was drunk, laying on a bed, and the bed was in the living room. He was practically not dressed, and it reeked of alcohol, and the place was a disaster. And it reeked, and the lady offered her a chair, and she didn't want to sit down in the chair because it was just that filthy of a place. And finally, she got a folding chair and sat in that. And when she left, she prayed and said, God, how can I see anything? But she saw a picture of JFK on the wall. And she thought, well, evidently the woman respects order and respects justice. And so that's an attribute of God, so I'm gonna think about that and hold to that while I'm calling forth this Christ nature and this one life. Did you get that? And when she went back the next week, the place was all cleaned up. It was spotless. You know, the bed was back in the bedroom, the guy was dressed and sitting up, and order had happened. Just, if you could just reach in there and grab one thing. But you cannot continue. You can't continue licking your wounds, rehearsing all your belligerence, no matter how much it may have been true, what you saw or what happened or whatever. It doesn't make any difference. We came here to heal, to subdue, and to take dominion over darkness, and the way we do it is by loving and by having mercy. Because by mercy and truth, iniquity is purged. Do you understand that? So we've been talking about this for a long, long time. I want to talk about it forever, probably until I get it. I'll just keep talking about it until I can finally do it. But this week, something different happened. And it's been coming. Okay, you have to hand me that and my glasses, honey.
And this right here, the cards?
Oh, yeah, there's 2 cards. These are my cheat sheets. Okay, thanks. I want us to begin, because we're missing something huge, but by continually talking about catching hold of the oneness from person to person. We're missing a gigantic piece of the pie. So I call this oneness horizontally. You know, we talk all about being close to Jesus, being, you know, having a relationship with God, a personal relationship where we learn to hear him when he speaks and feel the impulse of the Spirit when he directs us. We talk about that all the time. Now we're talking about seeing him in each other and in all of even the worst. And we talk about that all the time. But I wrote down here, how much are we actually missing of experiencing this eternal life by ignoring it in everything else on the earth that appears? Now, well, okay, what about the life that appears as animals? What about the life that appears as birds? What about the life that appears as, you think, okay, well, that's my dog, that's just my dog, No, it's not. In there is the creative intelligence of the spirit of life, or it wouldn't be acting, it wouldn't be alive. Do you understand? What about the birds? Well, I do appreciate the birds. I listen to them. I can pretty much tell what kind of a bird is what by listening. I'm kind of into that. But, and Patricia, every time I have a plant that's gonna die, I call Patricia, and she comes and gets the plant, and she brings it back a week later, and it looks like it's the happiest thing that ever happened. Because she has a respect and a sense of being in tune with it, and it in tune with her. Do you understand that?
Yes.
She has a sense of that. And people, you see people with their pet, or with their horse, or, but you don't often see it with an insect, unless you're my grandson, that's a different deal, but for the most part, but that also is the same identical life. Now, I'm not into worshiping the insects, and I'm not into worshiping the trees. I'm not saying to worship the appearance, no more than I would worship a human being. I'm saying to get a sense that you are dealing with a live, that means you're dealing with God. There is that within, or that which formed and breathed life into it. So the Indians got it. The Indians really did get it, and I love reading about them. They, move your chair over here. London, move your chair over towards her just a tiny bit. Is that better? I know, but your neck looked like it's broken. It was actually going sideways and turning left at the same time it was going right. So. What was I saying? Yeah. I read about this old Indian chief that had a liver problem, and he went and sat on the ground with his back to an oak tree. And he just sat there all day long, letting the life that was so strong in that oak tree minister to the life and give him strength and let it. And he got well. Because he had respect for it. You know how they used to say, I don't know, brother sun or sister moon, I don't know what they did, I don't know, but that, and I don't want to get into all that, and I'm not saying that, I'm just saying it's that everything we look at if it has appearance and it has place and space, then it has the spirit of life. And that spirit of life is the Spirit of God. And we must learn to acknowledge it and appreciate it and start letting it become part of our awareness. And maybe everybody in here already does that. Maybe I'm the only one that's just, finally catching on. But we're missing a gigantic portion of the wonders and the goodness of life by staying so myopic and so narrow visioned about all of our problems and our finances and our business and our appointments and going here and going there and this and that and that and this. And we forget. I could go all the way through my whole day and never notice the life that's around me because I'm so myopic and I'm so absorbed in whatever I'm absorbed in. And that should not be. That should not be. I remember that I used to, before I moved here, because this is not the place I would ever do it, but I used to go out all the time and lay on the ground, on my back, on the clover or the dandelions or just the grass, and just lay there, let the sun beat on me, and just I feel so strong. and so much energy and so much strength. I don't do it now because the scorpions, they freak me out. They do, they completely freak me out, you know. So this whole story is about everything except scorpions. You know, and we're stupid, we're really ignorant, because just because these things don't communicate verbally like we do, we think that they're not alive and they don't have life and they don't have a sense of being. And they do have a sense of being. A sense of being. You know, and another thing the engines used to do, you know, they would, I don't know what they did, they'd go and they'd take a fish and they'd say, thank you for giving your life to me. I mean, they had that kind of a respect for it. Or they'd kill a buffalo and say, thank you for, you know, giving your life to me and helping me sustain my life. And I don't know, do we do that? No, we go to the grocery store, we don't even know we have buffalo. But I want you to begin to do this. Do you think that we need to experience this more?
Yes.
Do you think there's a giant portion of life all around us that we are totally blind to?
Yes.
Do you know that people get healed? Do you remember in Monkeys and Dragons, the story about the elderly woman who had spinal cord cancer? And they sent her home to die, and her husband brought they had been married for, you know, at least 100 years. And he brought her out to this bay window, and he built this beautiful garden for her so she could watch him build the garden, you know, while she was laying there. And she was terminally ill. And why do you suppose she got healed lying there? Nobody made a prayer. Nobody made a prayer over her. Nobody made a prayer.
She was just surrounded by light.
We're surrounded by life too, but what are we doing? Nothing.
We ignore it.
We don't even acknowledge it. We don't feel it. She was a farmer's wife. She was used to you know, be in nature. And she watched every little thing that he did and all the life that burst out from it. And she connected with it and she had a sense of it. And she let it become one with her, and it strengthened her. It gave the strength of its life to her. While she's laying there with the window between them. It gave the strength of its life to her. I believe a plant, if I felt that, would give the strength of its life to me. You know, in the hospital we learned, you know, people take in oxygen, plants take in the carbon dioxide that we blow out, and then they blow oxygen out for us. Now, if that's not a symbiotic relationship, I don't know what is. You know? Beautiful relationship. But that's how the whole earth, and you know, we read creation groans and travails, waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God. I'm going to change that one. Creation groans and travails, waiting for us to get it. Waiting for us to wake up and quit being so self-absorbed and so ignorant and so blind. This God gave everything to us because we need it for our life. I believe that my dog could give me so much strength if she'd just settle down. She's still a puppy. Could bring so much strength into my life that it could heal me. You know, when my second baby was born, 2 pounds, you know, God, she was. The only reason they didn't let her go was because I was the head nurse and they wouldn't do that. I mean, she was a mess. And I brought her home because I wanted her home. I had a 2-year-old home and I had to be home. So she slept on my chest all night, every night. And I could feel when she stopped breathing. And I'd just shake her a little bit and she'd start breathing. She'd just forget, you know. And that went on for months and months and months and months and months. Now, why do you suppose that she lived? I didn't know. I never asked God to heal her one time because I didn't think he could. I didn't know God. I just thought, okay, you're going to do your best with this little baby. You know, you're not going to let anybody kill her or not let her live. I'm not going to allow that. And they brought me a paper and they said, we're going to, you know, this was later on. They said, we're going to put her in a mental hospital, a state hospital, because she'll never know the difference. You know, she was so pathetically retarded. God, she works for the Attorney General's office. She's an attorney with 2 kids, and she's brilliant. Well, how do you suppose wholeness entered into her little broken body? Because I loved her so much. And that love just, it went into her, and it brought strength, and it gave her a reason, and it gave her a hope to live. It made her live. There is no power like the power of love. There is no power. I remember a little old lady, maybe, I don't know, but she was overweight, and she was really wrinkled, which was really odd for somebody that overweight, but really wrinkled. And she had a stroke, a bad stroke. She couldn't talk. Her whole right side of her body was gone. She couldn't talk. She was in the poor ward because she didn't have any family or friends. And the bed always looked like a disaster area because if she just barely moved, everything just went, because she was so, large. And I felt sorry for her because she was always so alone, And I was always late for a report in the morning. This is when I was a student nurse. So I'd go running past her room, and on the way past, I'd wave to go get report. And then after report, I'd go and I'd visit with her, and I spent a lot of time with her because she didn't have anybody. And one day, I spent a lot of time with her. And one day, I went running past the room waving, and I was really late again. And I realized that there was nobody in that bed. And I thought, oh God, she's gone. And I stopped and I backed up, and there was nobody in that bed. And I said, oh no. And I went into report, and I was just, I didn't have time to run in and check, but I knew. And I went into report, and I waited for them to say that she had passed during the night. No, she hadn't. So when I got out of report, I found her in a overstuffed chair on the other side of the room. She climbed over the side rail, and she made it all the way to the other side of the room so that I'd be proud of her. And I would see how much she tried to get better. That's the power of love. That's the power of love. And I remember standing there saying, my God, they told us that you don't get over stuff like that. They were wrong. They were wrong. That was only the beginning of me beginning to challenge everything in the whole wide world. But they did. I mean, you never got over it. She got over it. She pushed and she pushed and she pushed because of the power that somebody loved her. Not because, oh, I love you and I don't want to lose you. No, because that's selfish. No, I just love you. What did I care? I didn't even know her. I can't remember her name now. An unselfish giving because you have compassion and you have mercy for what somebody's going through, and because you see some quality. You've chosen to see quality. Do you understand? Now, I believe that that's exactly what's going on in the trees and in the birds. And remember the story about the young lady with leukemia, and she and her husband just got married? And he carried her down to the river every day, and he laid a blanket down and laid her on the blanket. And they just laid there and listened to the water go by, listen to this, and the birds, and she got over it. It went away. The strength of the life that surrounded her, that she chose to become part of, she chose to acknowledge it and let it permeate her existence, gave her strength and gave her life. Are you guys with me? I innately know that because whenever things get really tough in my life, I'll get in my car and go to Colorado all by myself. I'll go somewhere by myself. Because I have to be where there is, I used to go to, what's those mountains up there by Grass Valley, California? Sierra Nevada. I think that's there. And I'd go up there because there was cabins there and I could stay in it. It's just because I knew that I had to be away from people. And I had to get out where there was only life, and that was all, so that I could feel regenerated again and get put back together again. And then I come tearing back, within a week because I get lonesome. I'm not one that really likes all that alone for any length of time, but I know when I need it. When I had a stroke last year, one of the first things that Melissa did, so she must have known this innately, she went out and got two, what are those canvas, folding? She got a hammock and I fell off of it and almost had a concussion. The thing flipped over and my daughter was on it with me and she got off, and when she got off, it went flying and I went flying with it, and I came down in the back of my head and I was like, that's it. If that didn't get me, this did. I was so broken the tone of it. No, the hammock the dog took over, but this is these folding, but it has the same canvas, kind of like a hammock, and it folds up, and it's like a lounge chair. She got one here and one there, and put it out in my back patio, because I got bird feeders everywhere, and plants, and she said, because that's what you really love, and you need to be out there. And she just innately knew that. You know, I put one out here on my back porch and down in my office, and I'd go out and lay there during the day, or I'd go out at night, and she was right. She was right. I could just lie there and just feel life coming, and feel that life strengthening me and bringing me back again. And obviously it brought me back again. I think that sometimes we just kind of migrate toward that because something in our hearts knows it. But not enough, not enough. And not to wait until we're in a tragic situation where we need to, oh my goodness, you know, but get into the habit of just, I have this favorite prayer that says, don't let me get through this day and miss your life that's all around me. Don't let me get through this day and be so focused on whatever I'm doing that I miss life. I don't want to miss life. That's what's going to heal. That's what heals people. You know, not getting involved with all your buddies and not going here and there to try to, you know, fill the hole in your heart. That never works, and you end up filling it in all the wrong places. But when you go and you're not afraid to be alone, and you let that strength of the life around you, it will not just fill, but it'll heal. And then you can move forward. But you never want to move forward until you've taken the time to do that. It's important, it's critical. Are you guys getting this?
Yes.
Let me see, I wrote a ton of stuff. Okay, so how do you think we should do this? If we've never done it before. I got a story for you before you answer that. I got a story for you. This is a true story. All my stories are true stories. Don't leave me. Hang on. Yeah, it's okay, hang on. Like the hammock, this is like the hammock, you know.
Against 905, that's.
Yes, I know, I can barely get me up in. Okay, I decided when I had that stroke, I said, well, you know, this may be it for me, who knows? So I said, I better make a bucket list. I don't have a bucket list. I have everything in the world I want. I sure don't want to travel. I've traveled my whole life in the military and with my husband everywhere. I've had it with that. I guess I wouldn't mind going to one or two places, but not just to travel yet. And a cruise. So that didn't happen. So I said, you know what I want to do, Mel? I want to go deep sea fishing. And she said, really? And I said, I do. I love to go deep sea fishing. And I got this, like this, I was like an insane person over this deep sea fishing business. And I got like I do, you know, I get something in my bonnet, forget it, you know, forget it. So she gets on the phone and we decide, well, should we go here or there? I was going to take my whole family because, you know, this may be the last trip. You know, I didn't know. You don't know, hey. And, you know, and I got a lot of attention, you know, by all that, anyway. You rolled your eyes. Anyway, so we went down to Mexico to about a little less than an hour south of Cancun to a place called, I'm going to embarrass myself in front of you all, but not Vallarta. Adventurous. We're just adventurous. I speak German. Anyway, we went down there and she did all this research like Melissa does, dear Lord in heaven. She researches the kind of Kleenex she buys, but anyway. And she got this captain that assured her that he has the best results, and she read all these people saying, yeah, it was great, it was a good experience. So we were gonna rent out this captain and his one mate crew and a little boat. And out we went. And I was still kind of, dragging a leg and limping along, getting real tired real easy. But I was really excited about it. Gosh, I was excited about it. And we went out and I wanted to catch a sailfish. Well, they said, before we got down there, they said the marlins are really running. I had to look all this up. I didn't know marlin is kind of like a sailfish, but bigger. And maybe not as pretty. And then I thought, well, a swordfish will do good. Well, swordfish is sort of the same family. But then I started thinking about it. I really didn't want a swordfish because that sword didn't look real inviting. So I thought, well, I want a sailfish. And they said, now that's really rare. It might, it's happened, but it's very rare. You're probably going to get a marlin. We have several runs of marlins. And I was willing to do that, but I still had in my head, about the sailfish business. Well, we got on the boat, and Janice, she had to go off and get somebody at the airport. She was the white-haired lady that was singing. And Barbara, raise your hand. And Barbara was with us, and then Melissa and I, and all my family was on the boat. And we weren't catching a thing. We were out there for 4 hours, and we had all these what do you call those things?
They were troweling.
Rods, fishing rods. And they were sticking up in these posts, all around the whole boat. And so, we were out to get them something. Not one of them even went like this. Not one of them. Not one of them. Nothing moved for 4 hours. So I was leaning against the back of something sitting there, and I closed my eyes. And my thoughts went to Jesus when the fisherman couldn't catch any fish. And he called. Are you trying to block your wife, or is she fixing your back?
No, I see you.
Okay. Are you hiding her so I won't call her? Is that what's happening? Melissa, help her. Anyway, and I thought about Jesus, and I thought, greater than that is within me. And that's who's there. That's who lives in me. And so I'll just call the fish. He did. All power is given unto me in heaven and earth. Go you therefore. So I thought, okay. So I closed my eyes, and I really got into this. And I didn't make a prayer. I just reached my heart out to them and drew them to me. I just reached them out and drew them to me. And I did that for maybe 10, 15 minutes, and all of a sudden they started yelling, Michelle, your rod, get it. And I jumped up, and the thing was just going like this. So I said, I went over to it, and they were hooking that thing around me, and putting that post in there. And the thing was going like this, and so Barb came over. Melissa first did, but I needed her to get pictures. She had the camera. So Barb came over and grabbed the top of the rod for me, because I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. That was not working. But I could do this. And I said, did anybody see what kind it was? And they all looked at me and yelled, it's a sailfish! Like, you idiot, it's a sailfish. Like, didn't you know? Another thing everybody always says to me was, I'll bet that took 2 or 3 hours to pull that thing in. And I said, no, it took about 20 minutes. Wouldn't you say, Barbara? Mm-hmm. You know why? It was swimming to me. And the whole way while we were doing this, I said, I'm not going to hurt you, because I'm not going to keep you. I'm not going to hurt you. I don't know why I want to do this, but I just want to do it. Just come for a minute, and I'll let you go. I'm not going to hurt you. I wouldn't hurt it. You can't eat it. It's not an eatable fish. So we got it out of the water and beautiful, God, beautiful. And they took pictures, real quick, and they were measuring it and weighing it and taking pictures, all kinds of pictures. And I got behind it, and it was slimy when I touched it. Ugh, very slimy. And the sail was so high, well, you can see it, that's it, right there. And the sail was so high, you couldn't see my face. I wanted to make sure I got the picture so they knew it was me. So I pulled the sail down, and got my face up there. And then we let it go. And it swam away. And then we sent the pictures into the taxidermist and they created that. Now, you don't think that we are not in touch with, there is not one life? That is the most astonishing story when you think about it. Think about it. 4 hours, not one bite, and nothing after that.
You're going to fishing with me. Can you do that with my fish?
I don't want to not. I don't want to hurt anything. I just know that it's a big chunk of life that we're missing. It's a big chunk of life that we're not availing ourselves of. And you can call deer. Just sit out there and call, and they come running. The problem is sending them away after they come running. But there's nothing that is inescapable to us. You can get plants to live that look like that's it. That's the end of it. I had a favorite tree once when I was in Bible college, and it was just, and I thought, that's it. I went out and put my arms around it. It was just kind of a skinny little thing. And I just hugged it. And I said, I don't want you to die. I've been watching you since you were itty bitty little. I don't want you to die. And it just, I found out later it was a Chinese tallow, and you can't kill them. I thought I had done a wonderful thing. But the point is that we have to stretch out. We have to stretch out, and we have to begin to take life in. And we have to begin to get in touch with it and to feel the goodness of it and to know that it is giving to us. But it needs us to give back to it by acknowledging it, by appreciating it, by lending our strength to it when it's in trouble. All creation groans and travails, waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God. The creation of humans, the creation of animals that are killing each other that they don't need to. Things dying that don't need to die. He said, my mission is, as in heaven, so on earth, to let earth appear as heaven. And we are so far from that. But to me, this is another huge step in it happening. To acknowledge it, to love it, to appreciate it, to lend our strength to it, by appreciating it, you're loving it. And give it whatever it might need, and take from it whatever you might need. Because it willingly gives. It doesn't withhold. What do you think of all that? You think I just joined the ranks of the weirdos? I don't think so. It doesn't feel that in my heart. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like maybe we're getting back to some roots that we need to get back to.
Yeah, I used to sit out back in the bird's backyard for like an hour or 2 hours a day. That was her therapy.
Did you know the Martins came today? What?
Well, we had a wonderful thing happen this morning. We were praying for Alma, and every bird that could possibly be in Buffalo Estates came to my back door. Titmouses, long beaks.
I can hardly hear you.
We're just having an amazing show of nature and prayer for
What
Alma
time?
and you. 10 or 11, and the Martins, one little Martin came. They were all looking inside the glass too, springing about, just jumping. And-
Letting you know. you're all as
And
well.
we told Dan,
We
and
did that
Angie
already,
and I
though.
realized that's all that matters, that's real out there.
What if I told you that the last song that was played, what was that song, Estolia? The one that tipped angels, will guide you to heaven? That was the moment she left her body. The music, angels will guide you to heaven.
And they do.
And she took
They lift us up and they carry us
Pretty amazing, right?
into life. into a life that can't fall apart, into a life that can't, that you don't wonder, am I good, am I bad, did I earn it, did I not? You know, I mean, into a life that's unconfined. But you know what? There's a lot more of that right here, right now, that we can experience if we just allow ourselves. Why wait? You guys might want to wait. I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait when I know now that it's all around me. And it's calling. I can feel it. I mean, I'm not being a weird. I can feel a pulling towards it. Anyway, can you sing that song? Do you feel comfortable? If you don't, you don't have to.
I can try.
Well, hon, I don't want this to be a hardship on you.
No, I want to.
Okay, you want to sit and do it right there?
Maybe.
Or do you want to stand?
Um,
Or you can sit up here where I am.
I'll just come
Okay,
here.
I like this. I want you all to know this, that whether you know it or not, whether you've ever experienced it or not, there is that seed of the Son of God, and that's within every person that's sent to the earth. He's the true light that lighteth every man that cometh into the earth, and of his fullness have each one of us received. So the fullness of God dwells within you, whether you've ever been awakened to it or realize it or not, it's true. And that's the light of God, and that light, it says, is our life. And maybe you've never thought about it, maybe you've never allowed it to come forth where you can actually feel it, but if you haven't, you're missing a gigantic experience of life. And why wait until we pass? Why not experience it now and enjoy it now? So when it talks about the Son that is within me, in my womb, it's talking about that Son of God, deep in the soul of every man. So go ahead.
I felt alone and walked with sadness so severe. Didn't know what to do. Choked back desperate tears. Longed for hope and healing from seeming lack and fear. And as I walked, I saw a stream. I felt it draw me near. Everything will live where the river flows. Everything will live where the water goes. Where the river touches, everything is healed. The river of life, God's love to me is now revealed. Was it possible I heard the water call my name? I stepped into its coolness and something seemed to change. I looked down at the water, and much to my surprise, as though it had a purpose, the stream began to rise. Everything will live where the river flows. Everything will live where the water goes. Where the river touches, everything is healed. The river of life, God's love to me is now revealed. The water's depth increased from my ankles to my knees, washed away my sadness. I felt it loving me. Could it be, I questioned, but it couldn't be denied. Something good was happening. I knew it deep inside. inside. Everything will live where the river flows, and everything will live where the water goes. Where the river touches, everything is healed. The river of life, God's love to me is now revealed. The water flowed faster and wider, too deep to be crossed. I felt myself engulfed and lovingly was tossed by waves of joy and peace. I tumbled and I spun and saw the river carried me as though we both were one. Everything will live where the river flows, and everything will live where the water goes. Where the river touches, everything is healed. The river of life, God's love to me is now revealed. It filled me with such joy, I thought I could take no more. Then it loved me yet again, and rested me on the shore. Fear was gone, and in its place a calm and peaceful glow, a gift to me of the loving embrace of the mighty river's flow.